had this idea one day at work. I was a little bit bored, had nothing really going on at the moment, and I wanted to see something that I don't think I've ever seen. It was Mike Mignola doing the Ninja Turtles. So I just jumped on Google, tried to see if I could find something, and I couldn't. I don't think he's ever really drawn the Ninja Turtles. So I thought, how would that look like? So, grabbed a little scrap piece of paper, did this little doohickey right here as kind of my little legend so that I can try it for myself. Alright, as with anything that I do, I start with a pencil and a paper and just sketch out what I want to do. This is actually my second attempt on sketching this piece just because I'm so used to using up the entire page. So the first sketch I did was like, it was huge in comparison to what it looks like now. So I had to start all over again, start from scratch, and really just block out exactly where I wanted to be. I wanted the environment to really be a big part of this piece, so it's going to be very environmental, very open space, and then just Leo would be the very small part in this pic. So I want to make sure that I keep the idea of Mike Mignola's style, so it's very blocky and kind of gangly in some points and kind of bulky in others. So especially with the shell and the blocky looking head, very reminiscent of like Hellboy, and you see how his mouth is close to his eyes. It's kind of another little thing when he draws his monsters. And the one big thing that you have to make sure you do with Mignola is shadow. So I got to make sure this thing is soaking in black, but it's not going to be so much black this time around. But you'll see what I'm getting at when we get there. Making sure I have my perspective on point for where I'm having him perch is going to be on a chimney. I did it really wonky looking at first, but I didn't really like it, so I actually had to go a little bit straighter just so that I know it, and then afterwards when I go and put in the smaller details into the bricks, I can make it look a little bit jagged and janky to give it that Mignola feel. And yeah, so I'm just playing with a little bit with this bandana, make sure it's floating in the wind, give it some movement into this piece. And of course, with me, I always have to make sure I erase and make sure it looks good. But so far it's doing alright. So yeah, now you can see those little X's. I'm blocking out where I want all the shadow to be. So there's going to be a lot of it. And that is the sketch. So now that I'm pretty much happy with what I'm doing, I'm going to take this off the table and set it up onto my easel. This is the first time I'm using this thing, so bear with me with how I'm working with it. I got a spray can full of water and just soak the entire canvas so that I'm going to do a wet on wet type of brush strokes on it. So I had some yellow watercolor and just smeared the entire page with it. I go from bottom to top because I want it to go lighter as it goes up higher into the sky. So it's going to be really, really thick near the bottom, but it's very desaturated near the top. Just trying to blend it out and make it look a little bit more realistic with an environment. And I don't know where most of my stuff is. You can see in the background there's a lot of just junk laying around. I was in the middle of renovating there, but it's gone now, thank God. But yeah, I have very limited supplies, so I'm trying to use what I can. As you can see, I have a paper plate for my palette. I couldn't find my plastic one, but this'll do. It'll do the job right. Just going in and just trying to give it a little bit of like a darker environment near the bottom, so it goes lighter at the top. And there you go, doing the spray again, just so I can mix it in with the yellow. This watercolor paint wasn't the best. You can see it's very, very streaky. and I don't think I used the right brush for it either. But again, once it dries and once I give it a better shot at it and blend, it actually does what I want it to do. So it just gives it time to make sure it gets done the right way. Give that a second just to go through, and I'll probably just grab another thing there, because I do have one more color coming up. Make it a little bit darker. Add a little bit of yellow just to blend it in. That's why I have my other smaller brush. This one has actually worked a lot better than the big guy. So actually, yeah, I should have had something that was worked a little bit nicer than that one brush, but whatever, it happens. So now I'm just giving it a little bit of a texture feel on some of it, just to kind of give it that, cloudy looking sky. And here's that little darker orange, brownish color, just to give it that feeling that I wanted to give. Make it feel like this is, super early morning New York. The sun's just rising, so everything just looks a little bit dank and gross in the morning. Even though I'm not saying New York is gross in the morning, it's just that, this is the feeling that I was giving. So right here, I'm actually starting on the chimney, just blocking out that color that I wanted to do there, just so that I know where I need to go for that guy. And what I didn't anticipate is I drew all the bricks really, really jaggedly, and then the paint actually kind of covered it. But before I started, I made sure I took a picture just so I had some reference on what I wanted to do. So this one I'm actually kind of happy that it does have those little lines there, just so it makes the bricks look a little bit more realistic. And I can actually play around with those paint lines when I go in with the painted line work a little bit later on. Alright, we're zooming in now, and I'm going a little bit closer, and I'm starting on the turtle green. This was a bit of a light green mixed with yellow just to make sure it blends in with the environment. I'm blocking it all on the right hand side because the left is going to be filled with shadow. Just going in with a couple of layers, giving it darker near where the shadow is going to be. Now I'm just going on to the knee pads, just blocking that out with some color. The shell is another darker green, but I make sure it's blended in with a little bit of brown, a little bit of yellow, just so, again, matches with what's going on in the environment. Yeah, I had a little bit of an issue. You'll see it. I'll bring it up later, but with his left arm, I kind of messed it up a little bit and made it look like he had like this really weird looking bicep, but it was just part of his forearm. I hope I rectified it. It looks like I did it when I got in there. So yeah, now you can start seeing that the shape is there, and I'm blocking out some more of the shade and just giving it some texture and some rivets, some scratches into the piece. And I gave a little bit of a halo lighting section for his one side, just so that it didn't look so black and dark. And here I'm just putting in the smokestack coming out from the chimney. Just a light. I put in white, but I made sure it was very wet so that it would react well enough with the rest of the painting. You can't see it really much as I'm painting right now, but it does. You can tell the white smoke will blend into the top of the portrait with the paint, getting lighter as it goes higher. Just making sure I'm getting into those little crevices and not, screwing up into the actual figure. Coloring within the lines. That's always been fun. Cripes, it took a lot of time on this thing. Didn't think it took that long. And now I'm working on the swords. This one's actually tough just because it was trying to paint a straight line free-handed. This is a watercolor painting, so it's not like it has to be a big deal, and I still had a lot of black I still had to block out. so it wasn't a big deal. I could trim out the line a little bit later, or even edit it myself when I get into when I need to scan it. I tried one blocking of a brownish black. It didn't really work, so I had to go in and do multiple layers and on the shade just so it get me that right color. Because I didn't want it black. I wanted it to show a little bit more of a natural kind of color, because there's not really natural black in the real world when it comes to shade. There's always another color that's added to it. So if I was doing a traditional Mike Mignola version, of course it'd be completely black and with heavy reds and greens and stuff. But since I'm doing a watercolor, a little bit more of a stylistic version, I wanted to keep it more natural looking. And it's at this point you actually get to tell where I was going with the design, as the blacks or the dark shadow really start to pop on top of this thing. He really starts to stand out more, as everything around the figure is lighter, and then you have just this big blotch of shadow coming around there. Adjust the camera so you can see what I'm doing. See what's going on underneath. So yeah, you can see I'm just trying to cut with my brush just to make that one right sword just a little bit thinner, just so it looks a little more natural. And again, like I said, there's a bunch of layers on that black just to make sure it looks good. So I'm trying my best. I think I have my phone in my other hand, so I'm trying to just copy what line work I have, and then trying to see if I can tell what my lines look like underneath. Again, I'm not worried so much about the realistic lines, and especially the perspective on this, because this is supposed to look like a very janky, old-looking chimney, so it doesn't look 100% aligned. Just because it doesn't look. I want it to look like a style, like a Mignola style, where the bricks are oddly shaped, and the figure's oddly shaped, and there's more of his artistic style on that one. And just like that, here it is. Does that sound beautiful? So this is the first ever that I've been able to paint in watercolor this size. So thank you guys so much for watching my watercolor journey in this episode. I hope to see you guys again. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.